We are back here on the show. We have Dave Meltzer here on the line. And, Dave, your thoughts on the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view tonight?
Well, I mean, as a wrestling show, it was terrible. As a one-night nostalgia, if that's what you were into, it was what it was. I felt it was a really sad show. You know, it was, and actually most of the feedback I got from people watching, it's really weird when you watch a wrestling show and you end up, sometimes you end up mad because of stupidity. I wasn't mad at nothing. Often you end up happy. It's a good show. I ended up just kind of watching it and just being kind of sad when it was over, not that I was sad that ECW was over, but that, I felt they went to the well. The people in the building liked it. I'm sure the pay-per-view number was, well above usual, but I don't know. Just wasn't the bad matches. The guys looking older. It felt like it felt like Old Timers Day, and pro wrestling doesn't work well with Old Timers Day. I mean, it's good if they come out and they talk or they say something, but not if they wrestle. And unfortunately, in this one, they wrestled, and most of the guys shouldn't have wrestled. There were a few guys who, Sabu I thought looked really good. I thought the main event. I wouldn't say the main event was a good match, but it was.
We just went
dragged,
too long.
But they did some good spots, and Sabu certainly was very professional and looked like he was a pro wrestler and performed like a pro wrestler. And, Scorpio for his age I thought was pretty good. Stevie Richards was in good shape, which stood out because almost nobody else was. And a lot of the guys it was just kind of sad to see them because it was like they moved on, and the only one who seemed like that they had moved on in life and didn't come across as sad was Francine. Maybe Todd Gordon, and they weren't there.
Yeah. No, that was why. That's why they came off like everything was all right.
Todd, Todd would say thanks, and this is where we started. And I thought that, that was cool. And Francine is like, I had a wonderful time. It was great. Now I'm a mom. I'm retired from wrestling. And, that was really nice. It was nice that they showed him. The other thing about, we want to talk about the people who are no longer with us, and they didn't mention any names. I thought that was
weird.
It was really weird, yeah. And I thought it was sad. I mean, in the sense of doing the show. I mean, one of the things that I hate, and this is not their fault. I mean, this is just the reality of the situation. Is when you have announcers and they're clearly not saying what they should say. And in this case, it was for legal restrictions. But that the promotion, Philadelphia, the old days of the promotion. I mean, I know you couldn't even. I guess they were basically told you couldn't use the words ECW, although Taz slipped. And the thing with Taz was just so funny is that there are things that you're told not to say, and he slips and says them anyway. I mean, every now and then, and he did a couple times here. I mean, it's wrestling wise was probably the worst pay-per-view of the year. Some people liked it. I thought, I don't know. You can't judge it like every other show, but there were, I don't know. Another thing that I thought was really sad is just the Dixie Carter thing. And
that's been sad for a while.
Yeah, the Dixie Carter thing. I thought the crowd was kind of sad too, honestly. It was like, when they so badly wanted it to be something, and when it wasn't, I mean, I guess in a way you could say, well, even though it wasn't, they still were acting like it was. But to me, I don't know. It was like, when you're chanting, "This is awesome" at a match that's anything but, it's not natural, I guess.
I like when they were chanting, "This is classic," before RVD and Sabu had even touched.
Well, to them it was classic.
Nothing had happened yet.
No, but I mean, to them it was classic. No, they were saying "This is wrestling" at one of those matches, and I don't even remember if they were even any good.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole thing is that good, bad, or indifferent, whatever it was a one-night thing. It has nothing to do with storylines. It has nothing to do with going forward. It's certainly not building any momentum. They got a couple of weeks of television ratings out of it, and now, starting tomorrow, it's back to whatever it was they were doing, and then they're doing a few things well. Hopefully, they have a really good show tomorrow. I mean, the problem with tomorrow's show, I'm thinking, is that a lot of the stuff's going to have to be rushed. But I guess they say no interviews, nothing but wrestling, which to me is like, there's like a balance.
Actually, there's not even the balance. The funny thing is they're doing a commercial to build up a show. They're trying to convince you to watch the show. And one of the hooks is no interviews. It's like, that's just weird. So you're basically telling us the interviews suck, so tune in because you're not going to get any this week.
Well, I mean, I guess for one show it's not a big deal. I mean, when you do something different and, they're promoting this as a different show and it is a pretty loaded lineup and, let's face it, Beer Money and the Machine Guns are going to have a good match, 2 out of 3 falls.
Oh, a Rush 2 out of 3 falls match, finishing a best-of-5 series?
Yeah. Hey, you want me to defend the booking?
Sure.
But, I mean, they're going to have a good match. Kurt Angle and AJ Styles will almost undoubtedly have a good match.
Yeah.
And so, there's that positive. I mean, are they going anywhere? I don't know.
Could be the end of Kurt Angle's career.
Mystery opponent for Jeff Hardy. We'll see who that is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just, having to not mention people's names, it was very awkward. They handled it pretty well, I will say that. They even handled the fake Blue Meanie, but, I mean, that thing about when they had a different daughter playing in the Roseanne. I mean, I thought that's cute and everything, but I don't know. It was a one-time thing. I don't think it was a good show. Most of the reaction we got was negative. There were people who liked it, and I think that a lot of the people who bought it were probably, I don't know. I think there's probably a mix of feelings, based on the feedback I got from people who bought it. Some were probably happy to see it, but I don't know. I mean, when I'm watching it, it's like some of that stuff was nostalgia to me. I watched all that ECW stuff and everything, and people just get old. But pro wrestling isn't what you should be doing when you get old.
Or young sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. But I mean, there were guys out there doing, those brawls, and it was just slow motion. They were, I think a big problem was, they were talking about these guys trying to get in shape, and I think that the guys didn't, in 3 weeks, if you're not doing nothing, or you're working you're rarely working, you're not in shape, and 3 weeks you got to be on television, when you're old and you probably have injuries, it's not that easy to whip yourself into shape in 3 weeks. It was kind of unfair to those guys.
Yeah.
In some ways. They probably needed more time. And, I mean, I think that's another problem with this thing is that they rushed the show out there. I thought Dreamer and Raven was just terrible. I really did. It was like they worked, they bled. The crowd is quiet. I mean, at times the crowd was up. They overbooked with a million run-ins, especially today's style. You know what I mean? Like some people go, well, that's what they did in those days. But, it's not 1995. People, when they did all those run-ins, when Heyman did it, that's because that was, like, different and it was new. The overbooking was new, so it was, I don't want to say it wasn't overbooking, but it was different at the time. But when you keep doing it over and over again, then it becomes redundant, and we've had 15 years of it. And now people, you could tell, like, when they had the ref down and they did the visionary and all that. I mean, those people didn't want to see that.
No.
They were groaning.
No.
So that was kind of feeling that they had lost some touch with their audience. Although it's a very forgiving audience that they had. But it's not their normal audience. It was a lot of people, came from all over the world wanting to see it. It was a big deal to some of those fans. They made sure that they reacted. So that was the story of the night, I guess. I don't know. No good. I mean,
well, actually, let me get your thoughts on this because God knows I spent about 10 minutes ranting about this before you came on. But the thing that really annoyed me about the Raven Dreamer match is why would you bring your little kids out there?
Horrible. Those kids were too young.
Yeah.
To see Daddy bleeding like that.
And they had to be taken out of the building.
And, I mean, the worst part of that is we saw that in Beyond the Mat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we know that story because we saw that in Beyond the Mat. I mean, I know Mark Coleman got a lot of crap, but, his daughters were older, and even then, that was a bad move. And, I mean, I think Coleman, in hindsight, will admit that, too. I mean, I know he would because he didn't bring his daughters to shows after that. It's like, I know what you're, but this is the thing. They were looking for a story and an effect, and those girls, they're too young to understand that. I mean, I don't know.
I know that
I was appalled, and I got a lot of people who were appalled by that one because, again, like when Mick Foley, when that thing happened in Beyond the Mat, he didn't know, and then he watched on tape, and it was like, wow. And you learn, you live and learn. Well, we have the lesson of Mick Foley, and we have the lesson of Mark Coleman, although I'm sure they don't know that lesson. And these guys we're not going to listen to that lesson. We're going to do it because it adds a layer to the storyline with Raven looking at the kids. It's like, okay, let them do that, but then get them out of there before the guy's going to before Daddy's bleeding.
Right in front of them.
Almost on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they had to get him. I don't know. Yeah, that was terrible. No question.
I can understand. I'm not, and believe me, if you heard the show earlier, I'm not defending this, but I will say that I understand a guy wanting his kids to see what he did, but I could come up with 1,000 matches.
They didn't. So don't bleed. Don't bleed.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want your kids to see what you used to do, then when you're in WWE and you're having a dark match with Yoshitatsu, put him in the front row, do a quick little happy, wacky match, and that's that.
That's the thing. He was in WWE.
Yeah, that's when you have your kids watch, not when you're out there having a bloodbath with Uncle Scotty.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.